Yes, the Warriors won. Yes, the Warriors go up 3-2. But losing KD in the process has a lot of ramifications. We already see the spread rising for Game 6, and now Game 7. Can the Warriors, end up closing the series out, or is it going to be the Rockets? Teddy, we're all talking KD here today.
Sure, and obviously we're talking about an impact injury. I'm a little bit surprised by how much the markets have already adjusted. You talked about the money coming in on Houston, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later in the show. But basically, the markets are saying right now, Durant's worth, 4 points, 5 points? In a series that's been extremely competitive. We're seeing the highest point spread of the series in Game 6 back in Houston with the Rockets facing elimination. And that has everything to do with Kevin Durant, whose availability, not likely. I think he's already ruled out for tomorrow's game. All that being said, when we talk about last night's game, it's the same. We've said this several times throughout the course of the series. Yeah, Houston continues to get the money, but during crunch time, with the game on the line, the Rockets playmakers, once again last night, didn't make plays. They got the point spread cover. They did enough defensively to get the cover. But Chris Paul, James Harden, and all the role players, push comes to shove in the absolute, hey, you got to get a stop. You got to get a bucket. They haven't done that all series, and that's why they're down 3-2, despite their 4-1 ATS mark in the 5 games so far.
Teddy, we talked about it yesterday. We even went over on the off the mic segment there, thinking that the Rockets might be able to pull this off. Still pulling down a nice price here because what we're factoring in, and yes, it looks like he's already been ruled out for Game 6 Friday, but at best, what type of Kevin Durant are you going to get in Game 7? The one key piece I want to talk to you about, Teddy's last night, because we saw the Warriors jump out to a nice lead at halftime. Then we saw in the third quarter, which KD didn't get hurt till later in the third quarter. This game was touch and go in the fourth quarter without KD on the floor, and the Warriors rose to the challenge and won that game. This wasn't like, Warriors were up 20, then KD gets hurt, and you just hang on for the win. They played well in the fourth quarter, the Warriors.
They did. I mean, they made the shots they had to make. And, we saw back-to-back threes, Thompson and Curry. It was Green and Curry. Green, after the technical, Green hit the three, and then was Curry or Thompson followed with another one. Bottom line, all three of those guys got the job done during crunch time, and that's what Golden State's been able to do. That's why they have the lead in the series. They played better down the stretch of these tight ball games on a fairly consistent basis. Worth noting the adjusted total without Durant. This total was 224 in Game 1. All right, we're down to 212 by Game 6 without KD. We've actually seen a little bit of under money come in there. Obviously, Game 5, something of a defensive slugfest.
Yeah, Game 6 should be a lot of fun to watch. But last night, had the gentleman's sweep last night. After a Game 1 where some people were saying, hey, you know what? Look at the Celtics already moving on to the Eastern Conference Finals. Not so fast. The Bucks win 4 straight and stomp out the Celtics last night, Teddy. 116-91, easily covering, I should say, that 8.5 to 9 that was available close to game time. We take a look at yesterday. Kyrie doesn't look like he's going to be back for the Celtics and didn't play well, Teddy. A minus 25 for the game, 6 for 21 for the floor. Hasn't played well all series. Antetokounmpo finished the game with 20 points in a game high, plus 33. Well, boys, I said it all for the past, 3-4 weeks on the show. The best team in the NBA has been the Milwaukee Bucks. They certainly showed up in the series, Teddy, and put away the Celtics.
Sure. If you're looking from the start of the postseason, it's not even close who the best team in the NBA has been, and it has been Milwaukee. If you're looking for the regular season, you can make a very similar argument that the Bucks have been the best team in the NBA. And certainly, talking about a guy who's pushing the right buttons right now, that's Budenholzer. But he's got a team full of guys who are listening to his message and who are willing to play second fiddle to Giannis, who is an extraordinary basketball player and becoming better by the day. But the funny thing here is what's going on in Boston, man. It didn't take 2 hours after the game before all the stories started coming up about Kyrie did this, Kyrie did that. They have thrown him under the bus as an organization. It's all unnamed sources and this staff and that staff. The tenure for Kyrie in Boston did not end well. He will not be a Celtic moving forward. You can count on that. And someone's going to pay a max salary for a guy who's had chemistry issues everywhere he's been. The chemistry issues were very much on display on the floor last night, and they were very much on display in the media today. That's not necessarily a good thing for a basketball genius like Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, take a look at the Bucks. Probably going to be rooting on the Sixers to extend that series, so at least they can get yet another day or a couple of days off until the Eastern Conference Finals start. And also, Teddy, one thing to note: first time in the Eastern Conference Finals since 2001 which was against those Philadelphia 76ers. How about this history, Teddy, on Major League Baseball yesterday, a day game? We saw a couple of titanic home runs leave PNC Ballpark yesterday, but the one thing that grabbed my attention most of all is Joey Gallo. 100, look, this isn't an error. 100 home runs before he got to 100 singles. If anybody's seen Joey Gallo and the way the teams are shifting against him, it literally looks like, Teddy, he has to hit a home run or he doesn't get a base hit. One of the more crazy statistics that you're ever going to see, 100 home runs before 100 singles, Teddy.
It's never happened in Major League history. So, it's, one of the craziest stats you'll ever see. But, of course, Joey Gallo hits the bombs. You know the mentality of guys from Vegas, Donnie. We want to hit bombs, not singles. Actually, I like hitting singles. I'll hit singles all day long. But this is a guy who swings for the fences. This is a guy who has a very serious issue with the shifts in play against him. Hey, let's give him kudos. It's not easy to do that. But the Rangers hit the ball pretty good and got a walk-off win, or not a walk-off win last night, but a come-from-behind win last night. So we'll give Gallo some credit, but get some singles, dude. It'll help your team.
No, absolutely. Yeah, the Rangers had a nice comeback yesterday, down 6-2 late, and the Pirates have a pretty good bullpen. How about one Hunter Pence coming into the game and absolutely destroying a pitch for a grand slam with 2 outs to tie it up at 6, and then obviously moving forward, the Texas Rangers did win that game. Teddy, we all have lists, right, in Major League Baseball or professional football, and it always comes up. Like if I'm betting the Texas Rangers and there's 1 out and a man on third, the last guy I want to see up probably in Major League Baseball is Joey Gallo because you know it's going to be a home run, but more than likely going to strike out or not make contact here. So obviously a lightning rod for criticism, but just an interesting statistic nonetheless. Let's take a look at those NFL seasons here, Teddy. Seattle Seahawks 2019. We just saw Russell Wilson sign a monstrous deal, the trading of Frank Clark. And I always say, as long as you have Russell Wilson in your backfield as your quarterback, you're always going to have a chance to win. Currently sitting at 25-1 to win the 2019 championship, 12-1 to win the NFC West, and 8.5 is Seattle's team total this year. They did make some changes coming up, drafted a wide receiver in the draft to try to help out because Doug Baldwin's injury, not sure if he's going to come back, retire, or be hampered with that hip injury that he does currently have. And as we said, Frank Clark to D.C., drafted a defensive lineman in the draft, also added some players along the way. Seattle's always interesting. Tough home field environment, very good coaching staff, good front office, and a great quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. An elite quarterback. And somehow or other, Russell Wilson remains underrated. Last year, he had a QB rating of 110.9. 110.9. Opposing QBs, 94.3 against the Seahawks defense that did drop off a little bit, but still, that plus 16.6 between what Wilson got and the defense allowed. That's why Seattle had another winning season last year. Of course, Wilson just got his contract extended, an extra $140 million in his pocket. As we do with all of these team previews, I want to take a look back at last year. That's where the markets start. And then we make our adjustments off of what really happened last year. What really happened last year was Seattle overachieved in a lot of ways. A lot of it was Russell Wilson. Certainly, the fact that they were plus 15 in turnovers was a big benefit for the Seahawks a year ago, although under Pete Carroll in the Carroll-Wilson era, they've consistently earned positive turnover differentials. Not quite as good as New England, but pretty darn close. So to expect the Seahawks to be an even team this year when it comes to turnovers, not something I'm willing to do based on the track record of the defense and the quarterback. Nonetheless, they were plus 15 last year. That was one of the top 3 or 4 in the NFL in turnovers. But they were outgained on a yard per play basis, minus 0.3 yards per play between what the offense got and what the defense allowed. And they were, for the number 1 rushing team in the league, they were outgained on a yards per rush basis last year. Not much, but they were outgained. They had a slightly easier than average schedule a year ago, slightly tougher than average this year based on 2019 win totals. But it's not a dramatic differential between a year ago and this year. When you look at the offseason, you talked about some of the big moves. Obviously, Frank Clark, the big deal. Russell Wilson, the big deal. They signed a couple of guys I think are really going to help. Michael Kendricks, probably going to be good. On defense, they saw the kicker problem they're hoping in Jason Myers. Obviously, Seabass last year wasn't good. KJ Wright has been good in this defense before. You talked about the defensive end in Collier they pick up in the first round. DJ Metcalf, a guy who can make some plays. And, of course, the perennial issue for the Seahawks is the offensive line. Last year they brought in a pair of new starting guards. They did okay. This year they signed re-signed Fluker, brought in Mike Iupati, who played 4 straight Pro Bowls. The last one was 2015. Seattle's offensive line, to me, once again, comes into the season as a major question mark. Good thing this team's got a quarterback who can win games. Seahawks, once again, likely to be bouncing around the wild card / division champs in a division with San Fran looking up and LA going to the Super Bowl last year. Seattle's not top of the pack anymore, but this team isn't far down from the LAs in the division. And frankly, they may be every bit as good or better than San Fran.